For the hardware inventory project, I added two data class files, one called product.vb and one called wholesaler.vb. Let's take a look at the code for both of those. Our product class is the parent class of our inheritance. It's also an abstract class. So in the public class product, I included the word must inherit. And then we have our class properties. These are public properties for SKU, item name, both as strings, the wholesaler code, the department also as strings, and the aisle as an integer. For the constructor, we're passing it 4 strings and an integer and setting those values to our 5 properties. The class methods are list item, which returns a string, and what it's going to return is an interpolated string of the item name, a few spaces, the letters SKU, and then the value of the SKU property. And then we have our function that must be overridden as an abstract function, and so it's public must override function get inventory difference as integer. And we'll comment there that it's an abstraction. That ends my class. We saw a couple lessons ago, we can put multiple classes in the same file. Doing inheritance, I usually find it easiest to put the child classes in the same file as the parent class. And I just did a few comments here to separate these. These are kind of upward arrows as far as my comments. So just a little personal thing I do sometimes for children classes. So here's our public class product by unit. And notice that it inherits product. That's really important. This is a child class. Product is the parent class. Has 3 public properties, a double value of price per unit, and 2 integers of inventory and items sold. In the constructor, we're having our new method. The parameters are the same 5 parameters we had in the parent class. So for our SKU, the item name, the wholesaler code, the department, and the aisle, and I put that as locked for location. And then after that, we also have the parameters for the properties of this child class. So PPU is going to be the price per unit, INV is going to be the inventory, and num sold is the item sold. I'm going to pass the 5 arguments that this new method receives to the parent class. So I got my base, that's the parent class or our product class, .new, and passing on those 5 arguments. And then the remaining 3 arguments we set to our 3 properties in this child class. Our class methods, we have a write record tab method, and I'm dimming T as a string, being an interpolated string of just the tab, VB tab character. Just shortens my code a little bit. Rather than writing VB tab a whole bunch of times, I can just write the letter T. Record string as string equals an interpolated string. I want the letter U. This is a product by unit. And then my tab, the SKU, the tab, the item name, the tab, the wholesaler code, tab department, tab aisle, and then tab price per unit, tab inventory, and tab, that should be items sold. And I put the U in here as part of the data file, so when I read this data back in at a subsequent session, I know if it's a product by unit or product by measure. So we'll see on the product by measure child class, we put an M rather than a U. Otherwise, it's pretty much the same, but we have 4 properties rather than 3 to write. And that's what I'm going to return, is that rec string. Now, the reason I hadn't caught that little error was I haven't included anything in this project to actually write the records back out. But it's always good to have some type of function in here for doing so, because later on down the road, in phase 2 of this product, we'd probably want to allow the user to add in new products. And we'll want to write those records back out, or maybe modify a product, or change prices. We'll write those records back out. Well, I didn't do that in this particular project. I wanted to have that functionality there. And then we have our get inventory difference, which is overriding that abstract method. So it's public overrides function get inventory difference as an integer, and return the inventory property minus the item sold property. Very straightforward. I have some more comments here. There's another child method coming up here, and that is our product by measure class. It's also going to inherit from product. So we have two child classes of our base class product. It has 4 properties: price per measure as double, measure unit as string, and that's going to contain things like pound or foot or yard, how we're measuring this product. The measures inventory as double, and the measures sold as double. Our constructor is just like the constructor we saw in the previous child class, except for our last 4 values reflect the properties of this class. So that's ppm is W, which would be our price per measure. INV is inventory as double. M sold is our measure sold as double. And then M is our measure unit as string. And I set those properties after passing the properties of our product class to the MyBase. Class measures, just as we saw before. The only thing different is reflecting those 4 properties for this particular class. And I use the letter M to start the string rather than the letter U. Our get inventory difference, public override function, get inventory difference as integer, we're going to return the measures inventory minus the measures sold. Now those are double values, but I'm really looking for is, have we sold more products than we have in inventory? And by converting those to integers, that's close enough to make that justification. So that's our product by unit, and product by measure classes. Let's look at the wholesaler class. For the wholesaler class, we have several public properties. ID is string, company is string, address is string, city, state, and zip all is string, as is phone and contact. So they're all string properties. My constructor, again, just passing those values to those different properties and setting them, just as we've done before with our other custom classes. And the class method here is I'm going to write this record out as string. Remember, this one is delimited by a space bar space. So I'm going to return an interpolated string of the ID, space bar space, company, space bar space, address, and so forth with city, state, zip, phone, and contact. In the next video of part 3, we'll look at coding the 2 forms. If you just jumped into this video, you can see all the videos from the Programming Practicum playlist by clicking on the image in the lower right. And if you'd like to be alerted to future videos I create, you can click my picture in the top right to subscribe to the channel.